So you've decided to do Currituck. That's an excellent choice. Now I hope that you have a ruler ready, a pencil, and a paper. If you don't have those three things, pause right now and go get them, and then come back and join us when you have them. All right, now that we have all of our materials, check your ruler to make sure that you don't see a gap like this right here. If you do, make sure that you line the paper up with this big long line and not the edge of your ruler. Now, if that big long line is on the edge, that's fine. Use it from the edge of the ruler. Also, in between the numbers, there's a semi-long line. It's not as long as the ones next to the numbers, but there's a kind of a long line, and that is your 0.5 or halfway point, okay? And we're going to be using our 0.5s. First thing we're going to do is we're going to measure from one edge of the paper over to 3.5 or 3.5, okay? Now, I'm making sure that my line is on the edge of my paper. It's not at the edge of my ruler. It might be kind of hard to see, but it's not at the edge of my ruler because my line doesn't start till this big long line right here. That's important. You want to make sure you have some good measurements. So I'm going to go over at the very top, over to 3.5, and I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to turn my ruler over, and I'm going to measure from the right-hand side back to the center of the table. I'm going to mark 3.5 again. So now I have two marks at the top of my paper. I'm going to go to the bottom of my paper, and I'm going to measure from one edge 2.5 or 2.5 in. And then I'm going to turn my ruler over, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to measure from the edge of my paper at 2.5 or 2.5. Now that I have these two lines in there, I'm going to connect those two lines. And remember that when you're using a ruler, make your C with your hand. And it may be a backward C if you use your right hand and you draw with your left. But you're going to push down on one side of the 6 with your fingers, and your two fingers are going to hold down on the table so your line will be nice and straight, and your ruler won't move. I'm not drawing really hard up against those, up against the ruler. I'm just trying to keep it my pencil up against the edge of the ruler, but not pushing against the ruler too hard. All right, so now that we have that, now I'm going to measure down on the edge. I'm gonna measure down. I'm gonna go down to the 8. So I'm gonna mark right here. All right, I'm gonna go over here, still measuring down. I'll go down to 8. And I'm going to draw a line right there. All right, so there, hopefully you can see that we have the shape of our lighthouse right there. For this to be Currituck, there's got to be some certain characteristics for it. And it's a brick lighthouse. Now, I have a brick template, which I could use, but most of you won't have a brick template. So here's what you can do. You can take strips of paper that I cut out, and you're going to put them underneath your paper. Try and keep them all nice and straight across. And you'll see how this is going to work in just a second. Just kind of lay them out so that they're nice and straight. And there's a little bit of gaps in between them all. All right, so that looks pretty good. Put my paper on top. I'm going to take a red or a rust color, a brick color, and I'm going to color my Currituck lighthouse. Now, I'm going to use the side of my crayon for this, and here's the cool thing is I don't really have to stay inside the lines on this because we're going to cut this out eventually. And I'm just going to rub, and you can see how it kind of looks like bricks on here, okay? I have a texture that gives it off that kind of makes it look like bricks. on my lighthouse, okay? And that's all that I'll have to do. Once you get to this point right here, you'll stop and you'll go to the next section about cutting out your lighthouses. I hope to see you there. Bye.